Now, the Berkshire Hathaway movie and annual meeting.
So, Charlie, you were born on the first day of 1924. You have seen a century of history. Do you ever stop?
Not only that, I lived in the aftermath of a previous century of history. You could argue that about 90% of the progress of man has happened in civilization has occurred in the last 2 centuries. There was no car. There was no broadcasting. It was a very different world. We figured out so very, very much that was quite important as a start. And, of course, that's what brought the economic system up, so man had enough leisure, had enough time to think. That's pretty much all of modern biology, modern medicine, and modern industrial civilization. Just imagine what the world would be like.
It's extraordinary how resistant some people are to learning anything.
Competency is a relative concept, and what a lot of us need, including the one speaking, is what I needed to get ahead was to compete against idiots. And luckily, there's a large supply. And everybody wants fiscal virtue, but not quite yet. They're like that guy who felt that way about sex. He was willing to give it up, but not quite yet. Yeah, I think you would understand any presentation using the word EBITDA if every time you saw that word, you just substituted the phrase bullshit earnings.
I knew he'd do it sooner or later, folks.
I like cryptocurrencies a lot less than you do. And so, to me, it's just dementia. And I think the people who are professional traders that go into trading cryptocurrencies, it's just disgusting. It's like somebody else is trading turds and you decide I can't be left out. But those of you who are about to enter business school or who are there, I recommend you learn to do it our way, but at least until you're out of school, you have to pretend to do it their way. In accounting, you can do things like they do in Italy when they have trouble with the mail. You know, it piles up and irritates the postal employees. They just throw away a few carloads, and then everything flows smoothly thereafter.
Folks. That happened in some unnamed international country.
Yeah, Italy. It's perfectly obvious, at least to me, that to say that derivative accounting in America is a sewer is an insult to sewage.
People don't seem to get that point. You have any idea why, Charlie?
Warren, if people weren't so often wrong, we wouldn't be so rich.
No.
Before Ben and Jerry, Oprah and Gail, or Sergey Brin and Larry Page, There was Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger. Born and raised in Omaha, Nebraska, both worked at Buffett's grandfather's grocery store, but their paths didn't cross until Buffett was 29 years old and Munger was 35. To understand the most successful couple in business, it's best to start at the beginning and how they first met.
Well, want to tell the story?
Go ahead.
There was a doctor couple, very prominent in Omaha, and his name was Eddie Davis. Her name was Dorothy Davis. And it was Mrs. Davis that called me, naturally. She did everything. And she said, we've heard that you manage money, and we'd be kind of interested in listening to your story about how you do it and what we might do with you. So I went over, and I talked to him, and I was all full of myself. And I couldn't talk fast enough about stocks in those days. And Dorothy Davis, very smart, and she listened to every word. And the doctor was kind of over in the corner spinning a yo-yo or something, and I not paying much attention. And the wife looked over at the doctor, and he said, I'm going to give him $100,000. And I was managing about $500,000 at the time, so it was a big deal. And in a very nice way, I said, Dr. Davis, I said, you really haven't been paying much attention to what I've been saying. Everything. I'd kind of like to know why you're giving me this $100,000. It was much more modest than that, the way I edged into it. And Dr. Davis looked at me and he said, well, he says you remind me of Charlie Munger. And I said, well, I don't know who Charlie Munger is, but I like him. And it sort of became their mission that sometime they wanted to get me and Charlie together. So Charlie, in 1959, his dad died, and he came back to Omaha. His mother lived there, and the Davises really got us together. And so they arranged a dinner. About 5 minutes into it, Charlie was sort of rolling on the floor laughing at his own jokes, which is exactly the same thing I did. So I'm not going to find anything out like this. And we just hit it off.
Charlie, what did they first tell you about Warren? How did they describe him to you?
Well, the Davises were like a second set of parents to me. There were two sets of three children. My father's best friend was Eddie Davis. My mother's best friend was Mrs. Davis. I lived in that house back and forth as though it were an alternate house of the Mungers. And Mrs. Davis gave me the honor of switching my legs when I misbehaved, just as if I were one of her own.
You probably gave her plenty of cause.
So anything the Davises asked me to do, I was going to do.
What did you think of Warren when you first met him?
We got along fine.
Oh, well. Both of our wives thought, my God, another one.
What I like about Warren is the irreverence. We don't have automatic reverence for the pompous heads of all civilization.
Is that something that came with age, or you guys were born with that?
We were kind of always the way. We were a little more extreme. I've learned to behave a little bit better. Charlie really hasn't learned to be much better. But, I just knew instantly Charlie was the kind of guy that I was going to like him and I was going to learn from. But, it wasn't anything calculated decision or anything like that. It was natural. And we have had nothing but fun.
I think part of the popularity of Berkshire Hathaway is that we look like people who've found a trick. It's not brilliance, it's just avoiding stupidity. And you say, but it's the same thing, just stated differently. Well, maybe it's the same thing, just stated differently, but you understand it better if you go at it the way we do. It's to identify the main stupidities that do bright people in, and then organize your patterns of thinking and development so you don't stumble into those stupidities. Berkshire Hathaway is constantly kissing off ideas, and even about 2 seconds flat. We know we've got opportunity X, which is better than the new opportunity. Why do we want to space 2 seconds thinking about X? Many of you come from places that don't do that. You've got to have one horse, one rabbit, one something or other, and that rabbit is going to be thinking about something which would be ruled out immediately by an opportunity cost available generally to the place. But it's in a different department, and you have to be diversified. And so on and so on. So it's easy to drift into this idea that opportunities don't matter and you've got some different way of doing things that are better. It isn't better. The right way to make decisions in practical life is based on your opportunity costs. When you get married, you have to choose the best you can find that'll have you. And the rest of life is the same damn way. And you have to figure these things out if you want good results in life. And if you don't, well, you have to pretend that you can get good results in life. And if you have enough sales ability, maybe you can get by with it. Sure, there are a lot of things in life way more important than wealth. All that said, some people do get confused. I play golf with a man. He says, "What good is health? You can't buy money with it." If I can be optimistic when I'm nearly dead, surely the rest of you can handle a little inflation. If you mix the mathematics of the chain letter or the Ponzi scheme with some legitimate development like the development of the internet, you are mixing something which is wretched and irrational and has bad consequences with something that has very good consequences. But you know, if you mix raisins with turds, they're still turds.
That's why they have me write the annual report.
I would rather throw a viper down my shirt front than hire a compensation consultant. A director getting $150,000 a year from a company who needs it is not an independent director.
Being put on the comp committee of American corporations, as I've said, they're looking for Chihuahuas and not Great Danes or Dobermans
Yeah.
And I hope I'm not insulting any of my friends that are on comp committees.
You're insulting the dogs.
No.
It's not that great a business as a business, casualty insurance. It's a tough game. There are temptations to be stupid in it. It's like banking. Once I asked the man who just left a large investment bank, and I said, "How does your firm make its money?" He said, "Off the top, off the bottom, off both sides, and in the middle." The general system for money management requires people to pretend that they can do something that they can't do, and to pretend to like it when they really don't. And I think that's a terrible way to spend your life, but it's very well paid.
Charlie, I don't know why I'm giving you another shot, but
I think I've offended enough people.
right. There's 2 or 3 in the balcony. We were mental partners right from the moment we met.
I want to know, going back 50 years, what it was like when you first met Warren.
Well, I thought he was a prodigy. And I got a lot of criticism. My wife said, "Why are you paying such enormous respect to that young man with a crew cut who won't eat vegetables?"
He's ungodly smart. He's got a much broader intellect than I do. And he's magnificent at being able to condense important ideas into just a very few words.
If you're not interested in the economic scene right now, you're mentally dead.
Charlie has no tact.
All right, let's talk a little bit about bankers. Charlie on Friday compared them to heroin addicts.
Yeah, well, that's colorful, Charlie, but I would not have chosen that.
I once wrote of him that when they handed out humility, he didn't get his fair share.
The ideal way to run a headquarters is to have one man, preferably over 80, sitting in an office by himself. Anything else is pure frippery.
He's always honest in what he tells me, so I listen to him.
We never had an argument. We just kind of roll with it easily. Suppose Warren doesn't want to do something that I would have done.
And suppose that happens 4 times over 40 years or something. What the hell difference does it make to me? Net, the record is working out fine. Warren, your obsession with Hollywood is starting to worry me.
Well, Mr. B, I look forward to serving as your number 2.
Well, actually, I already have a number 2. Meet Charlie, my Dwight.
You don't look so tough.
Well, actually, there are 18 ways I could kill you right now.
I'm in. I'll raise. I fold.
Where's Warren?
Well, unfortunately, I wasn't Warren's type.
Oh. Well, who needs a billionaire anyway, right?
Oh, I got myself a billionaire. It's just not Warren. Come in, sweetie.
Hi, girls.
This is Charlie.
Hi, Charlie.
You come here and sit right down, and I will grab us a couple of beers.
Deal me in. Is this really Jamie Lee Curtis?
Is this really Mr. Munger, excuse me. Please call me Jamie as long as I can call you Charlie.
Hi, Charlie. I'm Susan Lucci. Oh, haven't you heard about the deal between Warren and me? He's going to be a big star at All My Children, and I'm going to be taking over Berkshire Hathaway.
Well, you've certainly got some important qualities that Warren lacks.
Well, thank you, Charlie. There's some changes I really think we need to make around here. The first thing we need to look at is our dividend policy. I have never heard of anything so cheap and so unfair to our wonderful shareholders. We need to change it.
Sounds good to me.
Charlie, have you seen the new trailer for Iron Man 3? It's really amazing.
Iron who?
Charlie will get on his knees for you. I can
check, please.
Yeah. Do we have a deal?
Okay, yes.
Oh, thank you. Charlie, it's a bad time. I'm right up.
Oh, is that Charlie? Oh, give me the phone. Give me the phone. Give me the phone. Charlie, it's Jamie. Oh, it's so great talking to you, too.
1, 2, 3. Hi,
Warren Buffett.
Jesse. All right. I'm going to call my partner and have him draw up the papers.
Wait a minute. Did you just put that piece of brittle back in the batch?
That's right there.
Contaminated the whole thing.
Charlie?
It's done.
Slick, yo. Brittle, bitches.
Well, a Berkshire Hathaway shareholders meeting is partly a fun festival. It's sort of a Mardi Gras for people that come every year. It's a chance for us to have a lot of fun and meet the people that have entrusted us with their money.
Well, we used to have just 30 people in a cafeteria, and now we have this huge public spectacle. Celebration is part of making a group of people work well together. It's a celebration.
I think investors who own Berkshire Hathaway, they see themselves as a part of a community. There are more long-term holders of Berkshire than any company. People consider it a religion.
They don't buy it with the idea they're going to sell it next week. I think most of them buy it with the intent of holding it for their lifetime, just like they buy a farm or buy an apartment house. At Berkshire, everybody gets the same information from the comprehensive annual report. We don't meet with the analysts. I'm not interested in what an analyst thinks about Berkshire. I'm interested in what the owners of Berkshire think about Berkshire.
He came out of a private partnership where people he knew were trusting him. And he had his relatives in the partnership, and they were not rich. And as it got bigger, started treating everybody else the way he treated his relatives.
In terms of our feeling toward the people who are shareholders, we regard them as our partners. They're not some faceless group of people. And that's why at the annual meeting, I love seeing 40,000 of them. It gives real meaning to what we're doing every day. I'm Warren Buffett. And that's me with Charlie in an unscripted and spontaneous photos taken in Savannah, Georgia, early in 1982. Our wives could tell us apart, as long as we wore name tags. When Charlie and I first met in 1959, it was as if twins who had been separated at birth were reunited. But there were a few important differences between Charlie and me that many people missed. Let me elaborate. For one thing, I was only interested in whether things worked. Charlie wanted to know how things worked. I would turn on a switch, and if the TV or light bulb went on, he could not care less about what had caused that miracle. Charlie, however, would want to understand every aspect of how the generator worked, how electricity traveled to his home, the merits of AC versus DC, whatever. You could say that Charlie understood electricity better than Thomas Edison ever did. Like his hero, Ben Franklin, Charlie wanted to understand everything, and he pretty well succeeded. Additionally, Charlie liked to design things. When we met in 1959, he was designing and building the house in which he lived throughout his life. He once wanted to design a home for me in Santa Barbara on a piece of property Berkshire inherited. Fat chance. In 1958, I bought the house I now live in, but I would have been happy with any of 100 or more houses as long as it was in the general neighborhood of where I was then renting. Of course, I wanted my wife to like it, and I wanted to have room for 4 or 5 kids. But what it looked like inside, outside, was irrelevant. The difference, of course, was of supreme importance to Berkshire. Charlie's architectural thoughts led to the Berkshire Hathaway of today. Some of you may be surprised that Charlie first became a director of Berkshire in 1978. Through a small partnership, I had bought control of Berkshire early in 1965. Charlie then didn't have a penny invested in Berkshire, but he immediately told me my purchase was just plain dumb, which it was. Charlie then did for me what needed to be done to correct my error, and over time, we worked together to achieve his vision. Charlie, in effect, became the architect of today's Berkshire. The architect is the person who dreams of, then designs, then finally supervises the construction of great structures. The carpenters and the roofers, that's me, are needed, but the architect is the genius who provides the blueprint. Berkshire has become a great company with a unique group of owners. The directors of Berkshire are the trustees of the structure Charlie designed that lives beyond his lifetime and will live far beyond mine. I'm now going to introduce these directors and give you a short first quarter report and the outlook for the company. After that, we will take your questions. Please turn up the lights, and I hope you'll join me in applauding Charlie Munger, the architect of Berkshire. Yeah, don't wear out all your clapping on Charlie. I mean, we got